kid baby, I'm 61, and I will expound on that later. But most of them don't invest in themselves at all. We have a tendency to continue to look pretty while we're on stage. But when we get older, we think about what we used to do. No residuals coming in at all. If you're making $20, invest 5. And I'll critique you on that when my time comes up to speak on that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
Heather, you had a question?
Well, I was just gonna kind of say about bank accounts. So what other tax liabilities are there? I mean, you have your tax liability to pay your taxes on what you make, but are there any FICO or any other taxes that you're responsible for that you should be counting on? Because when you're putting the money in, like if you're putting it in the bank, you're keeping track of your expenses and everything.
Yeah.
You know, there could be other taxes that you need to know what you're, and how do you figure your percentage of tax that you'll be paying to have that if you need to pay it?
So right now, what you're talking about is the FICA, and you're talking about Social Security and Medicare taxes.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody in the United States that earns income is subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. Okay. The reason why is that's why everybody gets Social Security check when you retire. You know, and there's a tax rate on that. And right now, that tax rate is about 16%. So 16% of your income you need to pay to the government. Now, I'm making that sound simple. It's a bit more complicated than that because it's 16% of your net income. Anybody know the difference between gross income and net income? Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
gross is the total you make, and that's after taxes.
That is correct, that's correct. What you have to focus on is your net income. You need to focus, because that's what affects you. Your net income is what you're going to pay your taxes on. So if you make a CD and it costs you $3 to make a CD, and you sell a CD for $10, well then you're probably only making $6. $6 is what you pay your taxes on. And that's what you need to calculate. See, some people, they get in trouble and they go, oh man, I made $30,000 last year. And they say, what's 16%, $30,000? That's my tax bill. That's not your tax bill. You need to figure out what your net is. That's why I told you to keep track of your expenses. If you keep track of your expenses, you keep your tax liability down. So that's the main thing that you want to do. And so you got to pay Social Security, Medicare. So you need to probably just keep track, okay, whatever my net income is, I need to put away about 20% of that. 15% to the federal government, 4 or 5% to the state of Colorado, because you live in a state that has taxation. Anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you did, but mileage between gigs.
Mileage between gigs.
Okay.
Because it is, when we talk about, I know Heather knows, we move from location to location, and many times, many of our friends are doing 2 and 3 and 4 gigs a night, they're putting gas in at the middle of the day, and they're not tracking it. What is trackable and what is not?
Okay. I like to simplify that, and once again, it comes back to doing the system. So if that is the nature of your business, just that, what you described, that scenario, what I would do is, when I get up in the morning, or when I start my commute, I keep track. I'll have my little journal with me, and I would say, okay, I would write down what my current mileage is. Okay? And then at the end of the day, when I got home, I'll write what my current mileage is. You subtract the two, you get the difference. The difference is your miles for the day. But then now you got to go through your head and say, okay, I went to go see this person, I went to go see this person. Anything that was business associated is a part of that mileage. That's what's going to be deductible on your taxes. So when you come see your tax preparer, you say, hey, Chad, you know what? I'll say, hey, how many miles did you put on your car for the year? He'd be like, I did a lot, Chad. I did 15,000 miles on my vehicle. But I use my vehicle 80% of the time for work. We'll take 80% of the 15,000. That's your business miles. You keep that mileage log, and it'll hold up for an audit if you were ever audited by the IRS. I've been in audits before, and the two things that they want to see in an audit, they want to see that you keep a journal, which is a mileage log, and then they want to see that you kept track of your odometer. Because who's to say, right, that you didn't do 2 miles and you did 10. So, so the key is just try to get a good system. You'll get better, as you play with the system, you'll fine tune your system. You'll get a little better. But when you start out, just try to get in the habit, as a business owner, try to get in the habit of tracking your time, tracking what you're doing. I just do it once I learn how to do it, I just do it like an afterthought, like a second nature. I might be meeting with a client, I'm meeting with you guys right now, and it's a good thing and a bad thing, but it just is what it is. I've been doing business for a long time. I keep track to see how long I spend. I'm like, oh, you know what, that took me 20 minutes, that took me 30 minutes, that was 8 miles from my house, this and that. You start getting that mindset, you start fine-tuning your system. So then, but keep it easy at the beginning. So if you put mileage in your car, just keep track of what your odometer says at the beginning of the day. Keep track of the end. Track it to say, hey man, I put 100 miles on my car today. It didn't even seem like that. All of a sudden, that's money back in your pocket because it is a verifiable expense that you can use on your taxes.
Are all transportation services, because many of us are on the bus, I'm a bus rider, and many of those are standardized because you know that each ride is going to cost you an X amount of dollars.
Right.
And so if that is a standardized unit, do you use a percentage of your income to take off that, or how do you state that properly for the IRS? The fixed costs, I guess is what we call it.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So you can kind of systemize it, make it a lot simpler, and it might be, to your advantage to purchase a bus pass every month. But let's just say that you're not in a position to purchase a bus pass every month, or you don't need to purchase a bus pass every month. Okay? Let's just say that you catch the bus all the time, but not enough to get a bus pass. So then what you need to start to do is, once again, track your system. So you say, hey, you know what? I catch the bus at least 3 or 4 times a day. This is how much I spend, per day. Then you kind of keep track of that. And so you can take, 5 trips at $2.50 a trip, multiply that by 5, that's your number. That could be your system. But then there's one more thing you have to do. As a redundancy, you need to keep not all of your bus passes, not all your bus fare tickets. You just need to keep a few to legitimize what you're doing, and that's acceptable.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to just have a personal conversation, but I'm kind of interested in the information that you have in regards to band performers. If a manager has several different bands and he is managing those bands, are we using those bands as employees, or are we 1099 those bands, or are we, and how would be the best effective tax measure if you were dealing with several different, independent entities in the music business?
Okay. So you put about 6 questions in there.
I'm here for you, brother.
1099.
Okay, exactly.
Service.
So what I would do is I would form myself a LLC or a corporation, and I would have a standard contract agreement, not a subcontract agreement, a contract agreement that you have between you and the performers that you work with. You always have them sign it, and then you have what's called a W-9. Always keep a W-9 with you. You'll get them for free at the IRS. And then have them fill out the W-9, okay? And then you just keep track of what you pay everybody. And then at the end of the year, you need to make sure to give everybody a 1099. Okay?
Piggyback on that. As a manager, you have to get a federal employee ID number and tax code so that you can't take in like Social Security, Medicaid out of your payment.
Okay. We were talking about this outside, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You can't get out of paying Social Security and Medicare taxes 100%.
After this next question, after you answer this one, good question, Senator
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's Senator, that's him, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, so, I mean.
You can reduce, being a business owner, you can control, you can reduce what you would pay in Social Security and Medicare taxes. But you can, everybody is subject to it in the United States.
So what I was asking is like, as a manager, I am also, quote, employer. Okay, so the bands and the musicians who are working up under me, okay, do I need, file for a federal tax code so that I can take the federal deductions, pay out the payment, or should I do the disclaimer and let the employee, like, pay them tax? Is the responsibility on me as manager, quote, employer, or is it on the employee?
It's your responsibility as an employer.
As an employer, so as a manager, I am responsible, even though it's a cash-oriented business, I'm paying the musician, but I'm liable as the employer manager in order to keep a record of the.
People you pay, absolutely. Yes, sir. Okay, gotcha. All right. Oh, Ms. Fields? Yes, Senator Fields?
Yes, first of all, thank you for being here today and
Thank you.
sharing this very important information. I'm learning from myself because one of the things that I feel to do is to log my mileage.
Yes.
And being a state senator, I'm on the road a lot. When I go
Sure.
here, when I'm there, I'm missing an opportunity as it relates to, at the end of the year, filing how much mileage. And I've been guessing at it.
Right.
So I've been projecting and guessing at it. But what I really appreciate what you're sharing with us today is the need to be disciplined. The need to be obedient when it comes time to filing and being a legitimate business owner. That you have to have a certain standard and practice in mind. So it's not about promoting or entertaining, but there is a business side to it. And part of the business side is to have the discipline and the standard that you're talking about. So I want to thank you for that. So my question is for you, this is hard for me because, you know, we just had the election. That's right. I won my election, but my girl lost. You know, I was for Hillary Clinton because when I looked at the option, she was my girl, I'm a Democrat. I wanted to see her make it. She didn't get there. And now we have a president-elect who doesn't seem to have the same type of discipline as it relates to taxes because he's found loopholes to get around paying taxes. So even though you're trying to encourage us to be disciplined, we know that the equity, you know, and your income, there's disparity is associated with your tax bracket. And so how do you, my question, how do you say encourage and discipline when you know that some people are manipulating the system? And when it's people like us, we have to comply with all the rules. So the rules seem like they're for some people, and other people get to avoid them. So how do we encourage that you gotta be on the straight and narrow, you gotta do what you need to do, despite what other people are doing and they're getting away with it? Because what happens sometimes, you might do all this as an entertainer, but you forget this, and then all of a sudden you have this tax bill at the end of the year that's $1 million. Right. And so give us a word of advice in reference to how do we avoid being caught up in the trap as it relates to the IRS.
Sure. Okay. Well, like I said a little earlier, actually, what Senator Fields said was even more important, and I want you guys to think about this. I'm teaching you about systems. I'm teaching you about do's and don'ts, but the key is discipline. Sometimes it's not a pretty word, you know, because it really requires action on your part as an individual to hold yourself accountable to the standards or the system that you set forth for yourself. If you tell yourself, hey, you're not going to do something, you got to try your best to stick to it. The more that you do it, the better that you get at doing that. And so there's a lot of tax fraud and wealthy individuals that misuse the system. But you know what I would say? Don't concern yourself with them at this time. You know, focus on your dream and what you're trying to do. Focus on your business and what you're trying to achieve. Focus on your goals and hold yourself to a higher standard. And one thing I'll tell you that I liked from Michelle Obama, when she did her speech, she said when they go low, we go high. And so if you see everybody going low, hold yourself to a higher standard, because like my mother always says, you are a child of God. You know, you are someone that has respect, and you have your principles, and you have your pride, and you have your morality that you have to stick behind. And so, it just kind of goes back down to the fundamentals. You know, stick to the script. Try your best to. You know, yes, sir.
Along with the question Rhonda asked you, is very, very profound. Basically, what we got to quit doing as a people is not being comfortable with this repetitious system. When I say repetitious system, I'm talking about food stamps. It's a system that's been created to get us comfortable, to be neutralized. Even though you get food stamps, you get welfare, Social Security, you figure out a way, how can I take $10, $15 to invest in myself over here? Because if you don't have a mega Social Security plan, you starve to death out here, man. There's a system. How do I know? I'm a retired electrical lineman. And if you don't have a mega Social Security or stability, you're going to starve to death. So you got to take your money. You can't be comfortable. Some people can fold their hand. They look at the calendar every month and say, I get a check every month, but don't get no flat tire. Your car better not break down. You need tires. So if you lend somebody $10 or $20 out of that check, you lost. You can't give loans out of your Social Security.
That's correct.
But let your car break down and all those kind of things, you lost. You do not want to be comfortable in that neutral zone of repetitious living with this little, oh man, I get a check every month. Well, how much is it? $500. Well, how much is your rent? This. Well, how much you got to live on? Nothing. Look down on Lammer Street, and this lady know what I'm talking about. You look out there, you look at them poor people out there, and the drug man get the rest of the little money.
Yeah.
Do not become comfortable with the repetition. Here's these crumbs for you to live on. Go outside of that. I'm done with it.
Hey, I say you couldn't have said it better yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That is the world heavyweight champion of Inchin Karate, Chad Elliott, President and CEO of Denver Tax Group. Talk to Chad, believe me, he is a whirlwind. IRS really loves when he comes into an audit because they know that he knows what to do. And I can tell you this, our ratio on audit is very high that we come out on the good side. So Denver Tax Group, it works for you. Now I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce to you our new State Senator, Rhonda Fields. And it's so important that you know who she is. This is the Bacon Street Opportunity Center, but we have the Fields Foundation, and it's about advanced dream. Ms. Rhonda, can you just say hello? And we are so proud of you. We are so proud of you. That you have done it right. This is a woman who handled her business, and she's going to help us. But let me tell you why she really won. Because we went from corner to corner. We were broadcasting from Safeway and Albertsons, and people walked up to us to get on the air to find out what the deal was. But here's the deal. You know why they voted for her? Because she is a good steward of our trust. So a good steward handles business as if someone else owns it, but yet she has a fiduciary responsibility to us. And she gets there with all of the people. This is Rhonda Fields, and we need to make sure that we hold her up but that we support her in what she does. Show up and be engaged.
Thank you so very much for those kind words.
Thank you.
And for all the support. Welcome to my house.
This is her house.
Baker Street Opportunity Center is owned and operated by the Fields Foundation, and basically what we try to do here is advance the dream. And so we see ourselves as being like a 7-Eleven. If you have any kind of need, we would like to be able to plug you in to the resources that you need to get you to where you need to go. So we do a variety of things here, and this new ministry is what I like to call it as it relates to our media outreach is new to us. And we're excited about the work that Heather is doing and our uncle is doing. Greg. We're just really excited about everything that you're doing. Just getting the word out is just so very important. I won't take much of your time, but I think what I'd like to do is, this is the spirit of November. This is the spirit of Thanksgiving. And I don't know about you, but I stand in front of you humbled because I've been able to be senator-elect, and there's only 2 African-American women that are going to be serving in the state senate in 2016. That would be me and Senator Angela Williams. I'm going to be the first African-American woman of color to serve Arapahoe County in its existence. If you go down to the state capitol, when you go, especially in the Senate, they don't look like us. But you know what? In 2016, there will be a woman of color at the table. And I'll tell you why that's important to have someone of color at the table is because of my experiences. So when they talk about issues, and they have all kinds of issues down there. They have like an issue that they wanted families, if you wanted food stamps, they wanted you to be drug tested first. And it would have to cost you $65. Now, if she had $65, why would you even be applying for food stamps? They wanted to introduce legislation. If you're poor and you're hungry, you have to take a drug test. You would pay for it up front, and the state would give you your money afterwards.
Oh, no.
Someone has to have a voice to say no.
No.
They didn't ask me to take a drug test before I became a state representative. So what happened is I said, if you want people in the community to take a drug test, then everyone in here needs to take one too. Those are the kinds of issues that we have to address. Then they came with another bill. It's an assault on poor people. So if a woman has a baby and she has a son, and she wants her son circumcised, they're saying that is cosmetic surgery. And they would charge that poor woman whatever the going rate is. It's about $175 to get a baby circumcised. Prior to that, it was free, you know. For a variety of different reasons, the state felt like that should be a medical expense that is covered by the state.
Wow.
But who governs matters. So these policies were based on really Republicans being in a leadership position, and when they govern, they drive an agenda that's based on their values. And what they value is money and profit and things. When it comes to people and the most vulnerable in our community, they don't seem to have the same compassion and concern. They don't believe in government until they need it. And when they need it is when there's a flood or there's a fire. They don't care about our roads, they don't care about poor people, whatever. So we do need to make sure that we have women of color and people who are elected who can represent your values. Now, we just came out of a very difficult election, so a lot of people didn't vote. And I think they didn't vote because they didn't care about either candidate. They were dissatisfied with Trump and were dissatisfied by Hillary. But we cannot afford ever to be unplugged and not engaged. I'm concerned. I have some serious concerns about the Trump administration, especially when I look at the recent appointments that he's made. Follow the people that he's appointed, and you'll see that many of these folks have a history and a pattern that is anti people of color, people of religion. So we need to be on guard. So next time there's an election, I just want to make sure that you're registered to vote and that you vote for people that have common values and principles of yours. So I'm saying I'm rolling up my sleeves.
That's it.
I'm ready to fight. I'm going to be fighting for our values. I'm going to be fighting for our principles. And you all play a very major role in that. I understand that many of you are entrepreneurs in reference to the entertainment business. Thank you, because you have a voice. I don't know if you've seen some of all the people that came out to support Hillary. Jay-Z, Beyonce. I mean, she had all kind of surrogates. So once you're an entertainer, you do have credibility, and you can lend your voice to the inequities that you see all across our community. So it's not just about yourself, but it's also about being a good steward as it relates to being a citizen and a member of this great state. So that's all I have before I turn over the mic. Any questions you might have for me?
I like the point that you said, not just get stuck on yourself, but get tuned in and plugged up with the community, the nation, and the world at large. Because when you get plugged in with the community, there's an increase. And as the Word of God says it says that one will sow a seed, one will water, but God shall bring forth increase. So even as for you, Senator, it's more like you're doing things in the community, but God will accelerate you. He already did it. Just with the community, the nation, and the world at large. So we with you 100%.
Thank you so much. I am a woman of faith, and I tell you, I didn't get here this far on my own. You know, so I know where my blessing and my grace and mercy comes from.
Amen.
Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for providing this fine facility and all the things that you provide for our children. One of the things that I'm really concerned about is people of color being involved in entrepreneurship and being able to, like Mr. Thompson said, get off of the rut and get out of the ditch and stop digging the holes of mediocrity. What are some of the plans that we can use in Arapahoe County to start promoting entrepreneurship amongst, not even just the black and the white, but let's say the middle class person there, the occupant that is holding 2 jobs now, probably has to worry about the health care and all of the things that you provide here, but they want to take this step up. How do we help them take this step up?
You know, the first thing we have to do is we have to demand our place. And so by that I mean, if you have not been invited to be at the table, pull up a chair. Pull up a chair. Because when you go to a bank, you have to expect they're going to say no. I don't care what anyone says, race still makes a difference. I'm a senator, but there's always somebody that reminds me I'm still black. Even though I have the title. I'm down at the state capitol, and being a woman, I see even at that level the kind of roles they give women too, the roles that they assign to women. And so you'll see sometimes women are not assigned to leadership roles. We're assigned to be the secretary, you know, do this or do that. So we have to demand our place. And when I say that, it's wrong that we don't have access to the capital that we need to invest in our business ideas. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have our allies together and that we come together as partners and to confront the banking association. Whoever we need to get aligned to, this is a great business idea. We need the finances to move it forward because we have to expect that the answer is going to be no. The answer is no, no, no. And a lot of that has to do with, unfortunately, the color of our skin. And so we have to move beyond that. And so we have to really be organizing ourselves, protecting what we have already, but building on being able to increase our opportunity to have access. That means showing up at City Council here in Aurora, demanding that we do something with these businesses that are all up and down Colfax. You know, they're boarding them up, they're empty. You know, we have homeless people. Why can't we be doing something more? Why can't you invest in some of the ideas and the dreams that you all have? And we're not unified enough to propel that kind of movement. So the movement is what you're doing, but it has to be beyond this building. We have to go out and make people accountable, hold them accountable to fulfill your dreams, your aspirations. I want you on board. That's how I was able to solve my son's murder. As many of you know, I lost my son in 2000.